WeWork is getting ready to go public. This is now one of the biggest private companies in the world, last valued at $47 billion, and it is about to tap the public market. One of the most surprising things in WeWork's IPO prospectus is its board of directors. They are all male. There is not a single woman. And the reason this is so surprising is because every single S&P 500 company last month had at least one female director. Having a more diverse board of directors is seen as leading to better shareholder gains. Besides WeWork's all-male board of directors, there are some other things that could be concerning to investors in that IPO filing. Major one of them, the amount of losses that the company is notching, the amount of cash that it's burning through. WeWork is part of this class of unicorns, along with Uber and Lyft, that are going public with a huge amount of losses. WeWork's losses last year were $1.9 billion. That was even more than the revenue that it brought in at $1.8 billion. We have been getting some of WeWork's financials for a long time already, but what was so surprising in the S1 is that the pace of these losses that are already huge are actually accelerating. So for the first half of this year alone, they were above $900 million. One of the biggest questions facing WeWork is what happens in an economic downturn or recession. The business model is taking long-term leases of about 15 years and then subleasing them on a shorter term. WeWork said that future lease payment obligations was at more than $47 billion as of June 30th. That is up from $34 billion as at the end of 2018. So if you're betting on WeWork, you believe that ultimately it's going to be able to capture a market that is worth nearly $1 trillion. Whether it gets there is a big question. When you look at this company, you look at things like average revenue per member. That's how much WeWork is making off each membership. And this is a number that has been declining as the company goes into developing markets. In terms of other risks outlined in that IPO filing is potentially WeWork's China business. In China, the company is open to different local laws, and it could fall under China's cybersecurity law, which gives the Chinese government access to enterprise data. There's a lot of red flags in WeWork's IPO filing. However, this is a company that has managed to raise billions of dollars in the private market. So there are some things that investors have looked into and said, hey, this could actually be a big bet. Over the last few years, you've really seen these larger enterprises that are signing longer leases that's leading to a bigger backlog of revenue for the company. So this is a big moment of truth for the company to really see if public market investors are going to value it in the same way, above or below the private markets.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.